As I crouched over the toilet, not sure if I was going to throw up or not, I tried to go over the night to figure out how I got here. This is not what I wanted. All he has to do is say my name, kiss me, and I lead him to the bed? Shit. I mean, of course, it was wonderful. It was always wonderful with him. He's always had this effect on me. When he put his arms around me, my ears started to ring. When I saw him lean into me, I could see the pain, the desire on his face, and all I wanted to do was ease it. That's all I ever wanted to do for him, ease his pain, and there was so much of it. I prayed he wouldn't knock on the door. I had never let him see me this way when we were together, and I wasn't about to start now. The night of my father's funeral had been a bad one. The drive from the reservation back to the hotel was long and silent. He sat in the passenger seat, twisting his fingers around one another, unsure of how to help me. He had started to talk, and I remember telling him I just wanted silence. Once inside the hotel room, I had grabbed his hand and pulled him in to hug him. His smell was so intoxicating. His arms felt so good around me. I just wanted to swim inside him, so I could stop hurting for a moment. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something, someone, until I was exhausted. Instead, I made love to him. Immediately after, I went into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and cried until the water ran cold. At first, I thought he was going to come check on me. Then I realized that Quinn had never learned how to be in a relationship. He couldn't invest himself in another person the way others do. He waited to be told what to do, because the consequence of doing it wrong terrified him. If I didn't ask, he didn't supply, which in that moment was both frustrating and exactly what I needed. Most men try to fix everything for you. Quinn had learned long ago, albeit through the wrong circumstances, that not everything in life can be fixed. Some things just are. And the only way to deal is to put your head down and get through the best way you can. Thus, his advice to me, keep breathing. I straightened up, splashed my face with water, and prepared to go back out there. I opened the door to see him lying on the bed, eyes closed. I wished rather than believed he was asleep. I walked to the foot of the bed and started to gather my clothes. Leaving? He asked without opening his eyes. I think I should, don't you? If you want to. I started to get dressed. When we were together, I would have told him that I had asked if he wanted me to go. I would have forced him, in that moment, to admit that he wanted me to stay. We were not in a relationship anymore. This had gone so far off the rails, I didn't have the strength to do that. We've had this conversation before, I said, not meaning it to be snitty, but I knew it came out that way. I guess. I'm sorry, it was a mistake coming to the store today, I said as I moved from the bedroom to the living room to put on my shoes and find my purse. He followed after putting on his underwear. I'm glad you came. I was angry now. I had not intended any of this. I just wanted to see him again. I wanted to know he was okay, that he was happy. He was like a drug to me, drawing me in no matter the consequences. And at the end of the night, we were right back where we were 2 years ago. Me, leaving. You don't have to go, he said, leaning against the door frame. I looked up, and he looked good enough to eat standing there. I couldn't help but smile, and my anger at myself faded in an instant. It was always hard leaving you. Something you overcame, he said, unable to turn off the sarcasm. Normally, he would not have been that abrupt with his comments, but I suppose both of us had been prickly with emotion. I reacted before I could stop myself. I'm sorry. Did I miss a call, text, or email from you in the past 2 years? You left. You didn't stop me. I thought you wanted to go, he said, looking at the floor. And in that moment, I remembered that to him, things were just that simple. People don't say things they don't mean. If someone wants to leave, they leave. And it is futile to say you want them to stay. There's no reason in his brain to put yourself out there like that, even if you feel it. Most of the time, I admired his fatalist attitude, but sometimes, like now, I pitied it. In this instant, my heart ached for him. I knew he was standing there thinking about what he wanted, and in the same instant, thinking that it was inconsequential to me. He was more prepared to add to his bitterness, his sadness, than simply asking me to stay. And what did you want? That's the question I never got an answer to. What do you want? He stood there, hand on his hip, still relaxed. He said nothing. I walked up to him, and his demeanor did not change. I told you, all you have to do is ask, I said, putting my hand on his chest. We stood there for a moment, looking at each other. Stay, he said, quietly under his breath. As soon as the words passed his lips, I dropped my purse to the floor and stepped out of my shoes. I walked back into the bedroom, taking off my dress as I walked, and got into bed. He waited a moment and then followed me. We got into bed and snuggled up to each other. He put his arm around me. It was warm and safe. And I could have kicked him for not saying that one word 2 years ago. It might have changed everything. The next morning, I awoke to him in the bathroom. I rolled over and sat up just as he emerged. Morning, he said, getting back into bed beside me. Morning. He laid on his back with his eyes closed and draped his hands across his chest. He looked peaceful, and there was a slight smirk on his face. Do you have to work today? He asked without moving. No, I do have a meeting this afternoon, though. Breakfast. The night had been wonderful. I wanted more than anything to snuggle up next to him and make love one more time before spending the better part of the day with him. But I couldn't. When he left, it would hurt possibly more than last time. The truth was, it was a mistake to think that I could simply share a meal with him and not end up in his bed. I was lying to myself to think that it wasn't what I had wanted all along. Now it was time to go back to reality. I need to go home. He was silent. I got up and went to splash some water on my face. I came out to find him in the living room having a cigarette. I got dressed. You coming to the signing tonight? I don't know if I can. You're off and running after this week, right? Yeah, I have a couple of days at home, but I'm pretty much booked solid for the next 3 months. I couldn't think about anything in the future. I didn't want to ask if he wanted to see me again and in what capacity. I couldn't bear to see the blank look on his face he gave when he wasn't sure he wanted to do something. Where's the signing tonight? Let me look, he said, going for his briefcase. He pulled out my book and a folder that looked like the book jacket. He put it on the table and looked through papers to answer my question. I had stopped listening. I felt like I was walking through quicksand as I made the 4 or 5 steps to look at what he wrote in my advance copy. I opened the cover, which was simply a gray piece of cardstock with the title and offer information on it. On the title page, his inscription read, Jack, for all the things we never said to each other, know that it is no accident what these 2 characters feel for each other. Forgive my clumsy attempt to articulate your brilliance, our relationship. Love, Quinn. He was talking while I read, but I didn't hear it. The words rung in my ears. I pulled the book up to me and picked it up to read it again. In those few moments, there was no one else in the room. He knew there were things we had never said, even though we felt them. If only he was ready to say them. Had he written that portion of the book as a signal to me? He had to know I would read it. It surprised me, and the tears came without me realizing it. "Is it okay?" he said, bringing me back to real time. He says in chapter 14 that he loves her, but he never tells her. He thought she knew. He thought she felt the same way. She could never enjoy it because there was always doubt as to whether or not he felt it. There never should have been. That's my fault. Damn you, Quinn. Just damn you. I don't remember much about the rest of the day. Somehow I got out of the hotel and made it back to my rehearsal that evening. Supposedly, I participated in the rehearsal according to the emails I received later. I made it home. That's when I realized I had left my advanced copy in the hotel. It was bittersweet, but all of a sudden I wanted it. Although I knew he would be in town for another 2 days, I couldn't bring myself to go. I spent the rest of the week barricaded in my apartment, afraid to even breathe too loudly for fear he would come running. Silly, because Quinn had never run after any woman for any reason, and he wasn't going to break that lifelong streak for me. Still, I wanted it. Even though what he had written was painful, it was also the only clear indication I had ever received concerning his feelings for me, and I knew I would want proof of that. As Wilde said, "You love someone because only you can hear their song." And no matter what, I still heard Quinn's. I think it was louder than my own at times. When Saturday morning arrived, I was ready to re-enter the world. My weekend morning ritual of going for a walk and getting coffee and some horribly bad for me pastry was interrupted by a knock on the door. "Hello? Miss Perkins Scott?" "Yeah, who's asking?" "I have a delivery for you," he said, grabbing his bag and pulling out a quite thick manila envelope. "Thank you. You need to sign for it," he said, pulling out a clipboard and pointing to my name on a list. I signed and noticed that the sender was Quinn. I closed the door, put the envelope on the table, and spent a moment regretting that I couldn't see him one last time. Then I straightened up and went in search of espresso and sweets. All right, you have questions?
Tell us what led to just kind of when you were writing the story and writing the book, just the different, deciding on the characters, the location in terms of, all the different characters, geographically, people on the West Coast, the East Coast, how that, your creative process.
It just kind of happened. I knew that I wanted her to be in New York because starting her out as a Southern woman, as someone who lived in the country, I wanted to see her in that big city atmosphere, so that readers got a sense of her strength before they heard all of her story. And then it was just an easy thing to make him from New York. So that's yet another thing they had in common. And then it became easier when talking about trips that they had taken together as a couple. It just made sense for them to go all over the place, to Seattle and Arizona and different places, just to show that they weren't just contained in their little space, that they worked in all time zones.
Okay.
So this is a story of two writers?
Yes. Yeah. So it's
And they communicate through their books?
To a certain extent, yes. And most of that is because they haven't yet figured out a way to communicate face to face. Neither one of them can get it together. for very different reasons. But that's really what the book is about. It's about these two people who make their living communicating, and yet can't communicate to the one person that they want to spend the rest of their lives with.
Do they write most romantic novels, or do they write in all genres?
Her stuff is mostly romantic, and her stuff in the book is mostly theatrical plays. So it's different. It's not just different genres that they write, but they write for different mediums. And he's an author, but he writes men's fiction. So not necessarily a love story, but men's fiction.
Is this a story that you've had in you for a long time, or did it grow and develop, kind of evolve as you were writing?
It actually started out as a short story that I just one day sat down and started writing. And when I finished the 5 pages of it, I was like, wait, this is bigger. There's more to this than just these few pages. And then when I decided that, I never expected it to be a full-length novel. It just kind of happened. I just wrote until the story was done.
Is it done?
And no, it's not done. As my mother pointed out after she finished reading it, she pointed out some things that she would like to see, that she would have liked to have seen happen with these two people. And after talking with her about it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that could be, a great way to continue the story, and really make it interesting. And all I'll say about that is death is a great plot point.
So when this becomes an independent movie, who do you see playing Quinn and Jackie?
Oh, wow. Wow, okay, looks, going by looks alone, Sam Elliott for Quinn.
Really?
Yeah. Tall and lanky and, that kind of guy that has gray hair and you don't even care. You're just like, oh my God, you are so gorgeous. And he's got that air about him, when he walks into a room, it's like, oh, who's that?
Okay.
And he's got the voice, that deep, raspy baritone thing.
Mm-hmm.
For Jack, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I didn't really have to picture her in my head very much, because she's a lot like me. There are some very big differences. It is fiction, but yeah, she's a lot like me. So I have no idea who would play Jack. You've read it. Who do you think would play Jack?
Well, now I'm trying to base it on somebody who would, play off of Sam Elliott. If I had to pick somebody to play Jackie, it would have to probably be somebody like, because I'm thinking, obviously based on, I'm assuming that they're similar in age.
They are not. She is
much younger.
She is at least 15 years younger than
Okay, so that gives me, I would say probably either an Angela Bassett.
Ooh, yes, Angela is well.
Or Viola Davis.
Ooh, another good choice. Yes. She's got me sassy.
She's got that edge. That's what I'm like. It's like it has to be somebody who really has that edge.
Yeah.
Well, being a playwright, do you see it taking that direction?
It would be really hard to do this story as a play, because they never stay in one place. Yeah, I don't know if I could make it that. I could definitely make it a movie. I could definitely make it a screenplay, much easier. And I've had several people tell me that already, that it should be a movie. So we'll see. Never know what can happen.